Welcome back to the Takeout Political Panel Time. Joining me at the Takeout Tavern, remember that's a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday thing now. Matt Bennett right here, Democratic strategist, Executive Vice President for the centrist group Third Way, and making his first appearance on the program and at the Tavern, Mike Hahn, Republican strategist, former Deputy Digital Director for the National Republican Senatorial Committee. That looks like water, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you it is not. Great to have you here. All right. So I want to ask you about what happened in Florida, and I want to ask you about it. But plenty of Republicans say today that Senate race is now done and dusted because Angie Nixon's too liberal, too progressive, too socialist for Florida. I'm sure you agree.
I like our prospects there in the Senate quite a bit. But not only talking about the Senate, this is going to have a drag in House races. I'm looking specifically at the Florida 25 race, Jared Moskowitz. She's going to have a drag on that ticket as well. And then when you look at states
because he's going to have to explain what he thinks about her and vice versa.
They're going to have to campaign together. She's going to be a statewide candidate. And if people aren't going to come out and vote for her, they're not going to come out and vote for him, really. You need to have the energy and enthusiasm at the top of the ticket, and she's not going to have it. And she has insane ideas for Florida, of all places, too, by the way.
And do you think that that has a sort of trampoline effect nationwide in Republican messaging?
Absolutely, because you're going to see the effects in the House. You're going to see it, like I said, in the Florida 25 district. You're also going to see it in places like Michigan with Abdul Al-Sayed, a very similar candidate, DSA backed, same ideas. You're going to have Michigan.
Although he's not a DSA member.
He'll say that. Yeah, I get that. But the Tom Barrett race out there, for example, that's another race that Democrats need to win if they want to take control of the House. And it's going to drag down the entire ticket.
Matt, weigh in. What did you see in Florida? It is being said in the rear view that Alex Vindman took this for granted, assumed he was going to be the general election nominee, now isn't.
When you outspend somebody $1 billion to 1 or whatever it was, you think you're going to win, and he didn't. Look, it went from very hard to win to probably impossible to win. I do think guys like Moskowitz have identities of their own, and he has taken on the DSA very directly and very aggressively, and I think that's been really smart for him. But I agree that DSA candidates are going to hurt us elsewhere. It's one of the reasons we're alarmed about this. And
are going to spend money, $15 million, to try to deal with this going forward.
Yeah, we're working on that in the future. But you know, now
not for this cycle, but going to 2028.
Primaries are over. We're for the Democrats now. But yeah, look, it's a problem. In 2020, defund the police was very effectively used by Republicans, maybe by you,
every day.
to go after people very far from places that wanted to defund the police. So these kinds of radical things can be a real problem.
Let me ask you, though, Matt, about this energy component, because parties orient themselves to energetic supporters.
Yes.
They do.
For sure.
They have to. And there's energy here that's not imaginary. It keeps showing up.
It does, but you got to separate what the voters are saying to us and what these candidates are saying. The voters are not saying, we would like people that want to abolish prisons, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. Supreme
take over
Court,
private property, ownership of private companies.
Get out of NATO. No one's saying that. These voters are saying, we want people who will fight. We want fighters. And
we don't want the Democratic establishment who's let us down.
Yeah, we don't want these old people that have been in Congress for 30 years. We want new blood. They're right to want that, but these candidates are peddling stuff that they're not after.
Give me your assessment of that.
My take is that they're a percentage of a percentage, and they don't represent the values probably of the wider Democrat Party, but we're going to paint them as if that's the case. I mean, look, this went from being an AOC thing in New York, and this is now nationwide.
Kind of a niche thing.
Yeah, this is nationwide. We're talking about Florida,
which is what the energy's
Michigan, and now she's thinking of running for president.
Right. Let me talk to you about Alaska. Also voted last night. Mary Peltola running for Senate. You like her.
Love her.
She has a new ad out talking about her differences, not just with Republicans, but with her own party. Listen.
And I'll take on anyone, including Democrats, anyone in the lower 48 who doesn't understand what Alaska needs. They don't get that resource development is about our survival. They don't get that firearms are for feeding our families and protecting ourselves. That a secure border keeps all Americans safe.
Drill, baby, drill, guns, and border. Wow, doesn't sound like a Democrat to me, Mike.
Well, she's going to have a lot to answer for this whole Dan Sullivan shenanigans that went on there. And Republicans are very upset about this, and rightfully so. And I think the voters of Alaska are also going to be upset about this.
You think that race is competitive?
I think it's incredibly competitive. I think Dan Sullivan is going to come out victorious. Don't forget, Lisa Murkowski was a write-in. She's in the U.S. Senate. The voters out there are very, very engaged in what's going on there. And I think as more comes out on this, if she had something to do with that, people belong in prison because they deceived voters and it was wrong.
Matt, give me your take on maybe that little niche issue, but that Senate race writ large and that ad that you just saw.
Love that ad. I'm not sure about the Sullivan thing. I think that's more of a political world obsession. But I do think Mary is a great candidate. And we desperately need Democrats like that. We need people like John Bel Edwards, who won the governor's race in Louisiana by, taking positions I don't share. I don't agree with Mary on some of those things, but we need Democrats that can win in places like Alaska.
That can differentiate in places where it's necessary or you're going to lose.
Absolutely. If you run as a traditional Democrat in Alaska, you have zero hope of winning.
Matt Bennett, you get the last word. Mike Hahn, great to have you here.
Thank you.
Please enjoy the tavern. I know you gentlemen do.